Welcome to 2-Point Perspective Instrumental Drawing. I'm Stuart McEwing, and welcome. This is part 2, where we are projecting our little objects here. So this is our next exercise, and as we can see by way of review, we've got our plans, our picture plane, which is our invisible wall which we're looking through. We've got our station point or observer looking at our two objects, and that's one part of the engine of this machine. Then we've got our observer up here, or perhaps you would say it's the camera lens, and the ground line, which is now the bottom of our picture plane, which is resting here like that. Before it was up here, we were looking through it. Now we're up here thinking about the elevations on the side, and we're looking through the picture plane at our objects, which will be projected onto this part of the page here. For that, we've got the ground line at the bottom of our objects, our horizon line, which determines the height of which our observer is looking at these objects. If he's up here, he'll be looking down on them, and if he's down here, be looking up at them, and therefore would need a different horizon line. We would either have to pull it down or pull it up. The further up it is, the further up our observer, the higher he will be looking down at our objects. The lower the horizon line, the lower our observer will be, the more he will be looking up at our objects. Then we've got, so to complete the engine, what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to do the true height line. Now the true height line is anywhere where the plan intersects with the picture plane. So that's obviously that point there, and that is forming our true height line. Done. What's left is the picture plane. So from our observer, we're going to take a line parallel to this line here on our plan. So right there, where this line parallel to our plan intersects the picture plane, that's not the vanishing point. Don't get confused. Where it drops down and falls upon the horizon line will be our vanishing point. It will be our left-hand vanishing point. Once again, on this side, for our it's our right-hand vanishing point. Our left-hand vanishing point, we're going up on the 60-degree line here, from the eye up to the picture plane, then down onto the vanishing point, left hand vanishing point. So those are our vanishing points on the left and the right. We are now ready to switch this engine on and start projecting these objects. Now last time I know that we did already have done a rectangular prism, but here we are again, where I guess it's by way of revision, we're projecting from our elevation onto our true height line, and from that true height line back to the vanishing points. You can see my set square is just long enough. Here's my T-square. Once again, from the elevation onto the true height line, where these lines recede back to the vanishing points. Then our observer sends out what we might call it eye lines or laser beams, so he can see the edges of that object. Observer, and I could do a line all the way up there. All I need is that part of the line where it intersects the picture plane, and where it intersects the picture plane, I'm going to drop it right down, and that's going to be the back edge of our rectangular prism. Taking this line back to the right vanishing point will give us the top. Now our observer is going to look at the other corner. Where it intersects the picture plane. It's going to drop down. It's this line. And then that line comes back to the vanishing point. There we've achieved now a perspective of our rectangular prism. I'm just going to go ahead and ink these lines. There we go, we've got some nice ink lines in there, a 0.3 for the outline and a 0.1 for those inside lines where we have two visible faces. So that's by way of revision, and we've got some a nice perspective, and I think we can start to see now how where this is our picture plane and this is our picture plane, we have our observer looking through at this object. And now that becomes our observer up here, looking down upon this object, or on this elevation, and through the page, back behind it, as it goes beyond the picture plane, it recedes back into the vanishing points. So let's move up a level of difficulty to this, I guess you'll call it a square-based pyramid. Right. Now the problem here is immediately we don't see any place in which our rectangular prism is connected to the picture plane. Obviously there's still a relationship between the picture plane and the rectangular prism, but it's not connected, so where do we get our true height line? Well, all we have to do is extend one of these lines there and drop it down for our second true height line, true height 2. Now that's that bit. We've already got our vanishing points from the other drawing, and they don't change. Because these are in the same relation to each other. So we'll start projecting. Firstly, across the height onto the true height line, and I'm going to go at once both from the ground to the true height line in that intersection, back to the left hand vanishing point, from the top to the left-hand vanishing point. So this is coming from the elevation and back towards the left-hand vanishing point from that point there and from that point there. Now the first thing I like to do is to get a crate. So let's get a crate of this object as it's sitting there in this three-dimensional space. So our observer is going to be looking at that corner, and where that eye, or that laser line or that eye beam intersects that picture plane, it drops down. And so this line here, I'll just do it slightly darker, on that wall that's receding backwards into the three-dimensional space. That line there is that very corner and that edge that's going upwards here of our crate, and that's going as it goes backwards there. So let's find the back part of that crate on that same receding wall, our eye line, and where it intersects the picture plane, comes down. So that right there is that front wall of that plane. I'm going to take these back now to the vanishing point on the right. And observe again from the observer back to this corner to complete this crate. That's the bit of the line that I need. So I'll just do the line slightly harder so it's easier to see. As we come back here, the left vanishing point, we complete the top of this crate. So this back corner here that we have, I'll now focus up, it is found to be right there, and I've achieved it by projecting this one back and that one back there. So that's basically these lines as they come and intersect. There's two ways to do this. Here's to find that point. Here's the other way. I could go from the station point to this back corner, and where that intersects the picture plane, come down, and I think it's a pretty good way to check. It's pretty close to where I suggested it was. So that right there is that back edge. Now what I'm going to need is to find the center, so I can find that peak or that apex of that pyramid, which is right here. So I can go like that from the observer, draw an eye line to the peak of that pyramid, and where that intersects is going to be intersects the picture plane and comes down. The peak is going to be somewhere on that line that is drawn down, and obviously it's going to be somewhere inside this perspective rectangle that we have there, that's on top of the crate, or the invisible bounding box, as it may be. So where on that point? There's several ways you can do that. You can just simply cross from horizontal to horizontal. I know I can do that because this is a very convenient, simple shape that I can cross from horizontal to horizontal and find the point that's in the middle. But I want to show you the way in which you do this when this gets slightly more complicated. So I'll take from the plan and I'll project from the middle of the plan to the edge of the plan where I have my wall. From the station point to that edge of the plan where it intersects the picture plane and then is projected straight down, I have that point on the top edge of the crate of that of our square base pyramid. And when I project that one backwards towards the vanishing point, I have that intersecting line there, and that's that dot right there in the center. And we can also test it by doing the alternative method, and I've got it pretty much spot on. So this right here is that line, and that right there is that line, which completes our perspective. I'm just going to ink this up so it looks just like the other one, with a nice 0.3 ink line. On every edge where there is a hidden face. With our 0.1. So that right there is the completion of our second lesson and the completion of our two drawings, the rectangular prism once more and this square-based pyramid. And you can see that they're in perspective. So the page itself is the picture plane when looking in elevation, and your picture plane line is this wall that you would see, and everything behind the picture plane recedes back into space towards the vanishing points. Pen down on the paper. We'll see you next time for lesson 3, and where we'll be starting to get more complicated.